Welcome to Court of the Dead Day. I'm Tom Gilland, creator of Court of the Dead. Today we'll take you deep inside the Court of the Dead. Follow Sideshow all day for games, content, and giveaways. And thanks for celebrating Court of the Dead Day with us.
Sweet meat mortals, you first must die to learn that heaven and hell are a lie. You're merely fodder in their endless war, while we in the Underworld bring them more.
I'm a soldier. Of which you seem to have plenty. Why do you need me? What if I say no?
So long as you permit heaven and hell to define you. Now, we must all rise and define who we are.
Hi, fellow mourners. Look who we have here. This is Astis, the Oracle of Spirit, one of the three scions of the Underworld, running the Spirit faction in tandem with her sisters Gethsemane of Flesh and Xyle of Bone. So she's, as you can see, a bit more of a ghostly kind of a character. Spirit seeming apt in that regard, right? So as the principal caretaker of the spirits, I really wanted to bring out an element of kind of the sort of Elizabethan, ghostly kind of vibe that the history of the Underworld kind of curates. And so I worked diligently with Amilcar Fong, Rachel Rubicek, and Richard Luong in both conceiving the character and its looks, as well as the way we were going to compose it for this particular piece. Things that we really wanted to achieve here was, being that she's sort of a ghostly spirit entity, was that aspect of sort of floating. So as you can see, she sort of hovers above the sort of ethereal mist that kind of guides her along her path. Her 2 feet share a single slipper, since she never really puts her foot down on the ground. And same with her hair, sort of serves as a kind of an element that sort of just expresses itself and reflects the moods of Astis as she goes about her morrows in the Underworld. And of note that may be able to be seen here, is you can see that her head is just tethered to her neck by a thin little wisp of ethereal energy or whatnot, so that she can kind of 360 turn her head and take in the world around her in all of its abstracted ways, which is really kind of the language she speaks. So another element that's sort of showcased in this piece really wonderfully is the fact that the Underworld is a bit of a sort of a time capsule for the mortal world as well. So as you can see, there's a kind of historical reflection in the way that her garments are done, that kind of little mix of Victorian and Elizabethan garb. And if you take a look, this is kind of a signature aspect of our premium format pieces, in that there is a mixed media element where garments are either sculpted for effect or they're done as actual garments with some incredibly tight cut and sew, some really specific choices in trying to find materials, especially in this case, that have a certain kind of like old lace doilies or sheeting that you might find in like a grandma's attic or something like that. And kind of a sense of these like sort of streamers or whatnot that in a way kind of just waft around her as she sort of ghostly makes her way through the Underworld or whatnot. Each one finished with a sort of skull adorned little embellishment, showing that there's a sort of Underworld skull necro style that is really the kind of the expression of those in the Underworld. I think you can also see that, moving from the garments to the sort of the central motif here, is that within the hands in front of her, she has sort of the split skull that sort of represents the Underworld as it is torn between the two realities at war of heaven and hell in these other two split heads. So in a way, she's kind of conjuring that aspect of the greater story of what's going on in Court of the Dead. We'll see you next time when we rise, conquer, rule once again.
I think we're going live soon. Are we going live? We're live.
We're here.
We're live.
Oh my God.
Made it.
We're live and alive, which is more than we can say about a lot of the characters you're seeing today. It's Court of the Dead Day.
Woot woot.
How we
Woot
doing,
woot.
folks? Court of the Dead Day, and this is our game of win, lose, or die. I am joined by two of my favorite members of the Flesh faction, Paul Hernandez and Andrew Seco.
I'm Spirit Faction through and through, so
He just
I'm
saw
saying-
all the flesh that you
I'm
had
saying-
on your
yeah,
face.
Right.
In this reality, in the reality that we're in, Flesh faction.
Don't worry, Brad. We'll fix it in post. We'll fix it
Yeah,
in post.
we can edit live video. Right?
Oh,
right.
I'm not an editing wizard. Hello, everyone. Happy Court of the Dead Day. Welcome. I'm sure at this point you're already sick of seeing me. I hope you just enjoyed the tabletop game showcase that I did with Amy Chase just a moment ago. Welcome, everyone. We are going to be playing Win, Lose, or Die, our Underworld choose your own adventure game with our scribe himself, Mr. Andrew Seco. Of course, Brad will be reading as the avatar for all of these players. But really quick on Court of the Dead Day, you can still go and register at side.show/COTD day. See everything that you need to know about Court of the Dead Day. Remember, we do also have an awesome 10% off promo code right now. I believe it runs for the next 24 hours or so. And you can head over to courtofthedead.com, go to our shop tab there, and I believe that a 24-hour code. I believe it is COTD day at checkout for 10% off. Thank you, Chris.
There it is.
Speaking of an editing wizard, thank you, Chris. But yeah, we are very, very excited. We've got so many other things to do today. I do not want to waste another moment. Andrew, I know me and Brad are very excited for your story, and we have a lovely group of contestants behind the scenes that are probably not as excited for your story because you are, I believe, the king of the body counts. At least so far.
I don't know about that. I don't know. It could be anyone.
He's like, oh, I definitely have not kept the exact number at all.
I
Anywhere.
haven't. It's all about the story for me. If you die along the way, that just means I get more story.
All right. But
Well, luckily, it's a story about death. So
yes.
it's
Well,
death for death's sake.
Sure.
Today on Court of the Dead Day.
We're doing
All right.
great.
I want to get to it, Andrew. I want to hear the story so bad.
So we're starting?
I mean, well, are we live? Well, again, hello everyone.
We're
My name's
ready.
Paul.
Should we? Yeah, I'm
Brad
Brad
here,
Hey,
and
how you doing?
Andrew Seco is our storyteller and scribe, and there will be voices today.
Let's do it. Let's do
It
it.
won't
All
just
right,
be
Andrew,
your
you ready?
head coming from Andrew.
Take us away, my friend.
You can hear your heartbeat in your ears. You can taste the blood on your lips. It doesn't sound like your heartbeat. It doesn't taste like your blood. When you open your eyes for what you come to realize is your first time, it becomes clear that the heartbeat and blood are that of your creator. Your eyes focus and follow the dots down and around a pride-filled eye, a cheekbone sharp, and rest on a viciously loving smile. The smile sings to you in a tired but beautiful voice. Listless, restless, bodiless beast, stitched together, piece by piece, threaded, togethered, made up in my head. Come now together, the living undead. You do not see your mother again, but you will hear her song forever. The next thing you sense is a sword in your hand and a steed beneath your legs. You have legs. That is very good to know. You have some armor on, which is heavy, and a note in your other, possibly third hand, which is light. The note has directions through the capital of the Underworld, the city of Ilverness, crudely drawn in rich green ink. It reads, follow the path to the right. Blue ink offers a new suggestion with an arrow to the left. And where exactly are you going, you ask yourself, which is a wonderful question that I'll allow you now to answer. Will you go right, following a path lined with bones and skulls, where a skullet squire squeezes a scroll? Or left down an extremely thin alleyway where two puce pupils blink and wink at you? Either option is perfectly safe.
I don't believe you for a second.
Either option is perfectly safe.
I have never heard of Puce Pugils in my life, but I guess Steve C has, because Steve C, our first player, is choosing the blue ink. Go left.
You make your way down a long hallway, twice as long as it appeared. The pupils, you find, have no form, but mist around them. The eyes don't leave you, even when you and your steed are between them. When they talk, there is no mouth that moves, just an echo that bounces off each brick and back into your helmet. Do not trust the thornless rose. The petals are the poison. It dissipates, leaving you alone in the alleyway, so you go down the path of skulls. You're greeted by the squire, who introduces themselves as simply Bobby. Bobby is dressed in blue and looks like a mistake met an accident and then decided against skin entirely. His skull face literally doesn't have the ability to smile, but somehow you get the sense that he never frowns. He's doing exactly what he wants to be. Number 2. There is poetry, you think, in the duality of the moment. In the sky above you, cosmos swirl and tumble, reds clash with gold, and you feel so very small. And yet, backlit by the fractured light piercing down through the cosmic glow above you, Bobby is snorting and spitting as he leads you and your steed down a series of pale lit streets. He hardly looks over his shoulder as he speaks to you. You've been created for an extremely important role. It's a search and destroy mission, if you will. You're the best person for the job. Oh, but I was just created, you say, as if he didn't know. Exactly. You've got nothing to lose. But you have lost something, actually, in all the twists and turns down the empty alleyways. You've somehow misplaced your sword. You're not sure how, since it was one of the only things you were ever holding for your entire life, but it's gone, and you're pretty sure you're going to need that. But, you don't want to look like a fool on your first day on the job, so will you tell Bobby that you lost your sword, or say nothing and carry on ready to change plans?
Bobby.
What you going to do?
Are you going to tell Bobby that he lost a sword, or carry on and say nothing? Steve C says, say nothing.
Ooh.
You don't tell Bobby anything. He leads you right to the gates of the grand city of Wilderness and ushers you out of them alone. The gates close behind you. You marvel at their size and decoration, just long enough for a beast of unknowable terror to reduce you to mincemeat. The last thing you see isn't teeth nor claws, but rather the turquoise tint of a smile and eyes as red as a rose.
Okay.
Oh, is he gone?
He's mincemeat. He's mincemeat.
Steve C, eaten by a beast. Eyes. I'm so sorry, Steve.
Pour one out for Steve.
Yes.
Yeah, bye, Steve.
That's
Real.
The ego got Steve, I guess. Share the mistake. All right. Well, next up, we have the player Fred P. So Fred P is
Welcome, Fred.
player. So Fred, I believe Fred will have to say the choices up to this point.
So we're going to go again, and you get a beautiful song, you get a beautiful upbringing, and then you get a little note that offers you a right down towards Bobby, or a left down an alleyway.
We have Fred in the chat.
Either one's good.
Left.
Okay, well then you get the fair warning to not trust the thornless rose, because their petals are the poison. But then, as you're wandering around, somehow your sword's gone. Are you going to tell Bobby, or just carry on?
Fred's going to tell Bobby.
Once again, Bobby doesn't turn around. I know, it was stolen from you, but it's a good thing you're paying attention. We need that on this team. Number 3. Wait, you knew my sword was stolen and you didn't stop them? Oh, they like the fun of it. Who are they? Oh, they're our teammate. They like helping lost souls, and they happen to have a penchant for finding things. They're the search part of our search and destroy. So I'm the destroyer, or the soon-to-be destroyed? Bobby pulls you off the road and asks you to look at his scroll. The ink shifts and changes hues and shapes. For a moment, it looks like a map of an island, then a face, then a strange instrument, then an amphitheater. Bobby asks you, what do you see? Do you tell him that you see an amphitheater right now, or do you tell him that you see an ever-changing form?
I don't know, Fred.
Yeah, Fred, in here. Amphitheater, ever-changing form is what Fred says.
Bobby thinks for a moment. I see. Well, there's only one place where it could be. The Wallows, outside the city. Bobby leads you right to the gates of the grand city of Ilverness and ushers you out of them alone. The gates close behind you. You marvel at their size and decoration just long enough for a whistle to sound, a turquoise smile to open its maw and devour you. The last thing you see is its eyes, as red as a rose.
Oh no!
Fred,
Zoink, Scoob!
whoever's getting kicked out
I didn't say that.
whoever's getting kicked out of this town is getting eaten. And that's,
I do like that you get the moment to be like, wow, look how nice this thing that's going to kill me is.
Yeah.
Well, Fred, thank you
mystery.
so much, Fred. We'll
Sorry
stick
about
around.
that.
We've got a lot of stuff for Court of the Dead Day. Bye,
yeah,
Fred.
stick around. Okay. Well, we got Fred is body count 2 for Andrew, and next up we have Joel B playing with us. Joel B is our third player.
Welcome, Joel.
Let's go through the first 3 choices. Joel, can you hit us up in the chat real quick?
Being that you're beautifully made, you now have an option to go right or left. Which one?
Joel says left.
And you do so, once again getting the warning. And now you can tell Bobby if you've lost your sword or, just be ready to adapt.
Tell Bobby. I love that his name's Bobby.
Yeah, honesty is a good policy, especially when you're seeing this ever-changing scroll. Are you going to tell him that it's an ever-changing scroll or that you see an amphitheater right now?
Amphitheater is the answer for Joel.
Is it amphitheater? I've been saying amphitheater.
I think either one works. Amphitheater, I think. Yeah.
Ever-changing pronunciation, just like the scroll itself. And with that, the parchment paper seems to calcify and gloss over, as the amphitheater's blueprints seem to solidify. Bobby commends you and tells you how some artifacts in the Underworld aren't hard to find, just hard to get to, especially when they change location so often. It decided when you decided, he says, and walks you further into the city. Number 4. You notice the streets are all dimly lit, and when you finally look up from the grimy alleys, you see a massive pillar of light bellowing from the heart of the city. Somehow, for some reason, you can't bear to look at it. It's not that it's too bright, it's just unnaturally eerie. It feels like spiders under your skin. Finally, Bobby tells you to dismount. You enter the amphitheater by foot and snake your way through its halls. The passageways echo voices from throughout the city of Ilverness. Somehow, you can smell the delicacies from the Curio Cryptus, the marketplace. You can hear the sounds of blades in battle in the Dearth Forge, where all mourners train for the rebellion. You can feel the wind coming from Grendel's pillars, whispering a cautionary tale. Somehow, this amphitheater is a focal point for it all. Is it the artifact or the architecture? You don't really know, and you don't have much time to think about it because a sword plunges towards you, seemingly from midair. Will you attempt to dodge the attack or attempt a counterattack?
Oh, Joel.
It's going to be a hard one.
Dodge or counter. Joel is going to go with dodge.
Cleverly, you run away from the sword, trying to escape its swinging wrath. Unfortunately, without seeing who or what the sword was coming from, you can hardly predict its next motions. The sword beheads you, and not in the fun, sort of easy-to-fix kind of way, more like the permanent way. The last thing you see is a turquoise smile and eyes as red as a rose.
Who is?
Oh no!
Who is this
What's the
beast?
easy to fix decapitation?
It happens all the time in the Underworld.
Oh,
You can change your form if you're flesh action, typically. A little bit of necromancy sprinkled on top of your life. Well, unlife,
Well, thank you, Joel. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joel, for your sacrifice.
I mean, it's at every turn, Andrew. You are.
I didn't mean to do this.
Well, thank you, Joel, for your donation of Etheria.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
the donor sticker was hopefully on the ID. Next up, folks, we've got Christina R.
You will not be forgotten. Okay, Christina, let's do this. Left or right?
Left.
Did you lose your sword? Tell the truth.
Telling Bobby that she's honest.
Okay. Is it an amphitheater or is this thing changing all around? It's hard to tell. Legitimately.
Amphitheater.
Okay. Now, you're being attacked out of the blue inside this focal point amphitheater. Are you going to dodge or counter?
counter him.
You do your best to counter the attack using only your bare hands. There is no shortage of spare parts in the underworld, and even if your body gets damaged, you refuse to lose your head. You're the only person for this job. You're the only one who can get this artifact. You gave Bobby your word. What surprises you most is that the sword seems to stop midair just before slicing you. Number 5. A voice fades in like wind cuts a mountain, gentle but ceaseless. Good. You are brave and ready to fight. What good is a sword without a fighter to hold it? Just as the voice fades in, a body does too. It's turquoise. It has a lovely smile. Many smiles, actually. But it's the eyes that leave you the most unsettled. They are not eyes like you know them to be. At first glance, they seem to be roses. Or perhaps they're only as red. But whatever they are, it seems that many minds look out from behind them. The sword spins around, and it offers you the handle. You drop this, they insist. No, Bobby interrupts. You stole it, you murmurer. My name is Liage. I can't keep track of which mortar you collected last. Suddenly, you feel very ill. It seems that Liage is your greatest threat, the sword thief and the searcher on your team. Furthermore, they're the one that tells you that the artifact is located in the center of the amphitheater. You need a plan to get in there and destroy it. Will you ask Bobby or Liage for the plan?
Tough choice. These are some shady characters if I've ever heard of them.
These are some shady characters.
So Christina asking Bobby or asking Liage? She's going to go with Bobby.
Bobby never frowns. Bobby also doesn't waste his breath answering questions he doesn't have the answer to. Bobby simply brushes his arm out wide, encouraging you down your path. There's a hint of good luck, a sprinkle of good riddance, and a dollop of goodbye. But number 6. When you make your way towards the center, you see that it's no amphitheater at all. It's a coliseum, but half of the seating seems to be missing and chunks of the building gone. One platform floats at the edge of the stadium. It has the appearance of seating for royalty, where they'd be watching a battle, but no one is here to watch, and no one's watching. There are footprints on the ground that you follow, but there is no one and nothing at the end of them, save for a purple stain in the gravel beneath you, and a smell that's a mix between sulfur and cyanide. There's really nothing here, but then you don't know how this all works. You hardly even know who you are. This seems like the first time you've been able to slow down since you were created? Since you died? You can't really wrap your head around it, but there's never any time to think. Only act. Only act. Will you investigate and try to climb up that platform, climb up to the platform above the stadium, or investigate the purple gravel?
Platform or gravel, Christina?
Platform or gravel?
I ask myself every day.
Every day.
She's going to investigate the platform.
You try and climb. You're actually not terrible at it, but suddenly parts of the Colosseum move and shift, and not in any subtle way. You're flung off as if you're unwanted by the architecture itself. You land on your back, cracking your skull. The last thing you see is a smile and eyes as red as roses. Your last words are a question. Liage? Not anymore.
Oh no!
The mystery continues. We're not investigating gravel. So thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you, Christina. This is just a masterclass in just stay in your lane. Don't ask anyone any questions ever about anything.
No, man, it's just you got to find the right type of curiosity. Follow the right path.
Oh, wow.
I'm guessing there's it seems like there's been clues along the way a little bit, Andrew. Am I right about that? So, you know,
there are clues along the way, and you know what? I don't think we're going to be able to answer every question that we get. We'll see what we get to. It seems like we're getting both endings for everything, so
we sure are. Thank you, Christina. Have a great rest of the Court of the Dead Day.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
It's fun celebrating with you. Well, next up, our next player, Tenchi M.
Okay.
Tenchi will be playing, you know, this is the middle of the pack here. So Tenchi, you know, has a chance now. Really has a chance, I think.
Number 5, Seiko.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Are you going to go right or left? Both are safe.
Right or left? Tenchi, going left.
And you do, and you get the advice to not trust the thornless rose because the petals are poison. Are you going to tell Bobby you lost your sword or just adapt?
Tell him.
Okay.
Nice.
Are you going to tell him that you see an amphitheater or an ever-changing form?
Amphitheater.
Some strange vision at this amphitheater is attacking you. Are you going to dodge it or counterattack?
Counterattack that sword.
And you do so. And when the form is apparates the word I'm looking for? I don't think it is. Appears. That seems more realistic. When it finally makes itself seen to you, it introduces itself as Anitzurch. Are you going to ask Bobby or Anitzurch for advice?
You mean Leon?
I don't.
Oh. Ask Bobby.
No, okay, all right. You can ask both. It's fine. It's totally fine. But you ask Bobby. It is. That's spoiler. It's fine. So you ask Bobby, and you make your way into the center, where there's a floating platform way up in the over there, and then purple gravel on the ground. And you can investigate one or the other. But those are your only clues. What you gonna do?
Tenchi's gonna check that gravel.
All right, Tenchi.
Okay, time to act.
Here we go.
You lean over and try and assess the situation. Purple is a rare color here, and it's rare that you can take a deep breath in. And you do. The purple-stained gravel beneath your feet seems to rise with your breath. A rotting stench fills your nose, and you shudder. When you open your eyes, the purple stain is in the gravel no more. Instead, there's a spiral staircase, light purple, with walls on either side. You don't see what is up the stairs, only that your feet carry you there. Number 7. Turning the corner up the stairs, you find yourself walking on a fractured platform. It's all purple-tinted stone with strange ridges and uneven footing. You realize after some time that the platforms you're walking on were once sections of Colosseum, but now somehow repurposed. And most interestingly, hidden from your sight until, well, you're not sure what happened. But you can see it now and feel it now. And you can't stop yourself from walking up platform to platform, turning up each section of the spiral staircase. As you continue through the heliotrope halls, 2 things have become clear. The first is that there's some sort of pattern that was once on this stone. The ridges and risen tiling make it clear, but now that it's fractured and floating, it's hard to tell what the shape is. The second thing is that you are not alone. There are footsteps in front of you, and sometimes behind you. Will you continue to explore and discover the pattern, or patiently hide behind a corner to surprise attack whatever's following you?
Will you
check out the pattern or be patient.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I know I say a lot.
Either explore or hide are the choices.
Yeah.
What do we think, Tenchi?
What
What are we thinking?
Be patient. Tenchi
You
said.
will,
So
you
is
will
that
hide.
is that hiding? Yes, it's hiding.
Yeah. You'll hide behind a corner, but first you must find one. You sneak from mysterious heliotrope room to mysterious lavender room. You find footprints and turn the other way. If you're being searched for, they'll follow your footsteps. If you're the one searching, you'll know when they pass you by. But in the cracks in the assorted Colosseum maze, they're all thinning. Light is sparse. It's impossible to see. But for now, you are safe in the darkness and silence. Number 8.
Nice.
Seriously, nice. Time in the underworld does not pass the same way as the mortal realm. It passes in moments. Things change. Time is marked by these changes. But nothing seems to change in this darkness. Walls seem to close in. You can't wait any longer. Keeping your arm against the wall, you push through. The hallway spirals right, then left, up and down. How can that be? The ceiling pushes lower, the floor pushes higher. Have you felt these stones before? And what are the raised runes on the walls spelling? You're crawling, you're scraping your shoulder pauldrons on the roof and scraping your knee pauldrons on the floor. It's time to admit that you're lost. You have only one option. Call their name. What name do you call? This is a hard one. This is a big hard one. You know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Bobby.
No.
Gee, what name do you call?
This is a tricky one.
Clearly. Tenchi's taking her time.
Yeah, no, I know, and I mentioned it, and we talked about it.
I can't spell it right, but Atser whatever, which that's what I would say too.
Atser whatever. It is extremely important to know the history of the Underworld. The future depends on your reverence and rebellion to the mistakes of the past. You do not recall the past as it really was. The Underworld knows, this maze knows, and they, Onitsur, never hear you, because that is not their name, and you are crushed by the maze.
Oh!
There is no forgiveness.
Oh no! Oh, so sorry, Tenchi. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a great rest of your Court of the Dead day.
Atser was close, Tenchi, okay? Atser, Anitzer, Atser.
But if I called you bread, I'd be wrong.
But I would still know you're talking to me.
And
I guess I'm ruthless.
Oh wow, Andrew.
Here we go.
Before we move on, as always, Brad comes bearing gifts here. Brad has brought a reward code for everyone. Thank you so much, Brad. Chris, can we get that up on the screen, please?
I did it. This is my reward code.
Head over to side.show/reward code and enter a live stream 2021. That is side.show/reward code and enter a live stream 2021. That is for the first 2,000 mourners who get there first. Oh, thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it. And everyone, a big thank you to Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
You're welcome, everybody. And I just want to jump in here. Paul, we didn't share what our players are playing for. Should we share that now, or should we share that later?
You know what? I think we've gone this long. Let's keep it as mysterious as where this game is going. It is going to be wonderful. I promise. We definitely should have showed that at the beginning, but it's Court of the Dead Day, and we're in the Underworld, so we're doing things.
Time is strange in the Underworld.
Time is non-linear in the Underworld.
Exactly.
So,
well, it can be.
It can be, I
Doesn't
guess.
have to be, though.
Here's the thing. As you could guess, I'm guessing it's a Court of the Dead related.
It is good.
It's not going to be
Who
Marvel.
knows, though?
It's not going to be a Marvel.
Spoilers, Brad.
Spoilers.
No, it is not like a signed copy of Marley and Me or anything. We keep
I have
asking.
2 of those in here.
Yes, they're both Brad's. Andrew, let's get our next player up.
Our next
Let's
player
do it.
is Damon. We got Damon in here. Damon K.
Welcome.
Okay, Damon K., you're awoken with a beautiful song, and then given a note to go right or left. Either are perfectly suitable options.
Which way we going, Damon? Left.
You do. And you are warned about that, thornless rose thing. But you lose your sword. You gonna tell Bobby? Or, keep it on the hush-hush?
Tell him.
You do, and that serves you well when you make your way to, where are you going to go? An amphitheater or some ever-changing form?
An amphitheater.
Okay. We're going to go to Ampa Amphitheater, and you're going to be attacked out of the blue. That was funny. Are you going to dodge or counter? Because the guy is blue. Or, well, that's on me. The they is blue.
Damon says counter attack.
And that serves you well. They counter, you counter, and they offer you their sword and their name, Ichnet. So, are you going to ask Bobby or Ichnet for advice? Either are suitable options. I mean that.
You can ask Bobby or Ichnet. Bobby!
Ichnet.
Bobby.
Okay. Bobby says, so then you make your way into the Amphitheater Coliseum. Are you going to try and investigate the platform or the purple gravel?
Gravel.
And you do so, and you find your way going through this strange maze that's somehow creepy. Maybe there's someone following you. Are you going to check out the pattern? Are you going to be patient? Explore or hide, whatever you want to say.
We're gonna hide.
Nice.
You're going to hide. And now, hiding, crawling through this maze, there is only one thing to do. Call their name. What name do you call?
What's the name?
I finally picked up on it.
Did you really?
I
did. Do you like that?
I do. That's pretty clever. We'll fix that in post. No one heard that, right?
No, there's a thing. It's not senseless.
Damon
You got to really
still
think,
working
Damon.
on it. Still working
And
on
Damon
it.
can take their time. It's an important thing to know a name. And
this is tricky because there's no options here, really. Like
I know,
you didn't present them.
It's sinister of me. I offer it though multiple times.
Sure do.
So I figured people would take notes after Tenchi.
After 5 people. We're gonna give Damon a minute here to think.
Yeah.
Damon, you
And that's fine.
you keep us waiting and guessing. It took me this whole show to figure it out.
But you figured it out. Do you know? It doesn't have to be perfect either. I'm not holding it to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like if the sounds are there, because we're not typing as we do this. I'm not going to expect you to, have the right spelling. Do we have? No. Okay.
We're waiting. We're still waiting on Damon.
That's fine, and that's fine. Totally fine. Do you guys have a favorite name from Court of the Dead while we're on it?
Yeah, mine so far, and I've come to learn that my favorite character has been Galavarb. And
Galavarb is very cool. Yeah.
I love the way that her name is changed. Also, like immediately by the Alltaker, and also her origin story to me is my favorite personally.
Yeah, it's very very cool.
Do we have something?
Damon, are you still
Damon,
thinking?
are you still with us, Damon?
Damon, are you okay? Are you okay, Damon?
We are not paying for that, Andrew. Easy.
Personally, if I'm going to answer that, Poxel's my favorite, just because.
Yeah.
Because I also worked on the unboxing of Poxel, but
Beautifully, by the way.
Poxel. It just it's easy to remember. The X's in there are fun, and actually, Damon does have a name. Damon says Joel on.
I think that's JOLON is what he's saying, Andrew.
It is extremely important to know the history of the Underworld. The future depends on your reverence and rebellion to the mistakes of the past. You do not recall the past as it was. The Underworld knows, the maze knows, and neither of them.
He said, "Hold on." Dang it!
Oh, it was Joeled on.
I think he's probably on his
Joel,
phone.
hold on.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
David, you got to talk to us.
That
man.
was a
we are
typo,
live,
Damon.
sir.
That was a typo. Joel on is close enough to hold on that we're going to give you that.
If I'm picking up what Damon is putting down, I think he is starting to catch on. Here,
I can't see what's happening. All I know is that Joelon was not the name.
There you go. So that's a gimme. That's a gimme. Joelon is not the name.
Yeah, and that's for free.
So Damon's saying their name. Is it their name is what Damon is asking.
Maybe I should rephrase. You were able to ask 2 people for advice. I'm not looking for Bobby's name. I'm looking for the other character's name. I don't want to
It's
have
not
it go
Bobby,
on.
it's the other character's name.
Yeah, and I don't want to disqualify you for playing a riddle that I'm not trying to tell.
Yeah.
And I'll say
That seems unfair.
I'll say Paul seems to know I am in the dark person.
Maybe we'll catch on next one.
I've been taking notes myself, but it seems like there's something else going on that I do not understand, and that's what's fun about this.
Yes.
I'm willing to give Damon one more shot here if Damon's got another guess.
Damon, let's get that guess. We got to keep this game moving.
We got to keep this going, yeah.
It's your turn. Damon, what is the name you call into the darkness? Tell us right now.
Tell us right now.
Damon.
Who are they?
The dogs are trying to let it. Okay. So, Damon says, Ethernet.
I'll take it. I'll take it. It is extremely important to know. Oh, my chair is having me sink here. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely important to know the history of the Underworld.
It's the spirits.
It's extremely important to know the history of the Underworld, and the future depends on your reverence and rebellion to the mistakes of the past. You remember well enough the name of the past. You remember, and for a moment, the dark tunnel is illuminated again. A smile as brilliant as moonlight illuminates the now violet walls of the maze. Then those glowing rose eyes. Number 9. You do not see the smile disappear. They may still be out there, Ichnet, but you can't utter your gratitude. You can't speak. You arrive at the top of the maze, on the top of the platform at the edge of the Colosseum, and once there, you see the real threat. There are 3 statues in the seats of the amphitheater, stone replicas of the leaders of each faction, Zyle, Gethsemane, and Kyr. And spread across their shoulders like a lounging lion is a single Bale Reaver, pulsing a royal purple like a heartbeat. The beast has hardly any eyes. It sees with its scent. It tastes with its many rows of teeth. Its skin festers with wounds of a battle long lost. It is long and oozing the blood of many who came before you. It has tainted this place, and it's guarding something, though you don't have the time to think about it. It's territorial. There's no time for questioning. Something drives you, perhaps fear, perhaps the call of adventure. But you know this can only end in 3 ways. You will win, lose, or die trying. Will you try to strike with your sword? Strike with this purple power coursing through your veins, or call their name again to team up against the Bale Reaver.
Strike with the sword, strike with the purple power, or call the name again. Are the 3 options.
I won't make you remember the name this time if you go that route.
I think he's got it, Ethernet.
Yeah, I mean Damon's going to call Ethernet again.
Okay.
All right.
It's Ethernet, and I'm offended now.
I put a T in there.
They appear for only a moment. Oh, my Misty, I am but a foster burden. I house the remains of mourners like you, who lost themselves. I take on the names of my most recent collection, and it appears you are next. You hesitated. The Bale Reaver didn't. But you don't see his teeth last. You see the mournful eyes of red roses.
No!
We were very close there.
Damon, you were so close. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's all up to, I believe, Karen. Is that who we have next? Karen? Is it Karen?
Is it Karen or Con? We've got Karen and Conlon left.
Oh, Conlon. Okay.
I think it should be. I believe it's Karen, as my notes have it.
All right. So, Karen, I believe you are up next. You guys, your order probably got switched in our view here, but Karen is our next player. Karen, come on down.
Come on down, Karen. You're sung a beautiful song, and you get to go right or left. Either's a safe option.
Going right or left, Karen? You're in the game. It's starting. Say right or left, Karen.
Right or left?
Yeah. I think she's typing too fast.
Might be left.
Okay.
There you go. That's it.
You do it. There's a sword. Well, there was. You don't have it. Are you going to tell Bobby or not?
Let's see. What are we doing, Karen?
Tell.
Bobby pulls out his scroll and says, "Is it an amphitheater or an ever-changing form?" Amphitheater or ever-changing form?
Amphitheater or ever-changing form. Karen C is going to say amphitheater.
Nice.
And when you go to the amphitheater, you are attacked. Are you going to dodge or counter?
Counterattack.
And you do so. So, a voice fades in, like wind cuts a mountain, gentle but ceaseless. The body comes in too, offers you its sword, your sword, and offers you its name, Numad. Are you going to ask Bobby or Numad for advice?
Bobby.
Either are safe options. Okay, fine. You do so, and you get. So then you're finally out there, and you've got some purple stuff on the ground and some platforms up there. Which one are you going to investigate? Oh man, I've made it to the other side of the screen.
Purple.
You take a deep breath in, and whatever happens, and suddenly you're walking up a stairwell, deep spiral staircase, and you see other footprints. Are you going to investigate this pattern that's underneath your footprints, or be patient and hide to find out whatever's following you, or ahead of you, or following you?
Karen is going to hide. Karen's going to hide.
Nice.
And you do. You hide and you crawl your way through, and suddenly you're a little bit stuck and you're a little bit lost. You have one option. Call their name. What name are you going to call?
Oh, come on, Karen.
This is the tricky part.
This is I think I've given it clearly though. Like I think
Karen says Ekneth.
it's extremely important to know the history of the Underworld. The future depends on your reverence and rebel. The maze. Bye, Karen.
Bye, Karen. Oh,
There's something else going on here than
This has been a changing
and just remembering what came before. As
I know this is cruel of me.
it's a bit of a loop that Andrew's throwing, but pay attention to the changes that he is throwing out there. Thank you, Karen, for playing. But let's see what we can do with our next player, Conlon. You're up. See if you can figure out the puzzle.
Oh, and
Okay,
I think, Andrew, we are coming up on Win, Lose, or Die history here of having no one that will make it through. No pressure, Conlon, at all.
Wait. We don't have anyone after Conlon?
After Conlon, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, Conlon.
Conlon,
This is gonna work.
are you ready for this, Conlon? Let us know in the chat here. Are you ready?
Conlon.
Let's go. Okay.
Oh, I didn't expect this. This is on me.
Okay. Let's plug through this. First one.
Right or left?
Left.
Did you lose your sword? And you got Bobby? Does he know?
You gonna tell him or say nothing? Tell Bobby.
Are you going to the amphitheater or some ever-changing wherever?
Conlon. Amphitheater or ever-changing form are the two options.
Mm-hmm.
Amphitheater.
And you do so, and are you going to dodge or counter this spontaneous attack?
Dodge the sword or counterattack. Counter is what Conlon says.
You do so. And the person who offers you your sword tells you their name. Nirak.
Nirak. Okay.
Are you going to ask Bobby or Nirak for advice? Both are safe, I promise.
Don't trust you, Andrew.
I promise. I don't.
Look at all
break
these tokens
promises.
you've got here.
It's not on purpose. I thought it was a clear system.
Bobby or Nirak, Conlon? Conlon's going to ask Nirak.
They look you up and down, smile their odd smiles, and offer you a single thought. If you get lost, simply call my name. Okay, you go out to the amphitheater. There's purple on the ground, platform in the sky. What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Investigate platform or investigate purple. Gravel are the two options, Conlon. Gravel, we're going with gravel.
And you go up the stairs, and you see some footprints. There's a pattern underneath you, but are you gonna wait and try and hide? Are you gonna investigate, be hiding, patient, whatever?
Explore or hide? What are the
better
which
words.
ones are you going to do?
What are we doing, Conlon?
Conlon's going to hide.
And you do. And now you are stuck. There is only one name you can call.
What is the name?
Please, Conlon.
That you learned.
You did it.
I think he did it.
Nirak is what Conlon says.
And Paul, can you tell me if it's spelled right?
I mean, yeah.
It is.
It is.
It is? Okay. Brad, are you in on the system now?
I knew about halfway through.
Okay, all right, cool. Number 9, Shucky darn. Are you going to strike with your sword, strike with this purple power coursing through your veins, or call the name for a team up? Are you going to strike with your sword?
Strike with purple power or call the name again.
Yeah.
Purple power is what Conlon's going to go with. Purple power.
You look deep inside yourself for this power. You've needed power ever since your consciousness began. You felt powerless. You felt like nothing, but now you will be everything. Now you will become the most terrifying, powerful thing on this platform. You'll pull the purple power from the Bale Reaver with your bloody hands if you have to. You extend your sword and lunge forward toward the beast. Number 10. You notice the beast does not attack when you lunge towards it. In fact, it curls tighter around something strange. It hisses and snarls. It's ugly and angry, but it has not moved towards you. It is a coward, but you will not be. Will you slay the beast and claim the artifact it hides, or gain its trust and try and see what the artifact is? Will you slay the beast who did all of this, or try and gain the trust of the beast who's trying to kill you?
Oh, man.
This is the last. You can do it.
Going to learn a lot about Conlon here in a second.
We're going to learn a lot about...
Learn a lot about Andrew.
That's very true, yeah.
It's not about me.
I know enough.
Conlon has made a choice. Conlon is saying, gain the trust of the beast.
Oh.
The beast is far too covetous, far too gluttonous, far too hungry to trust someone. As you reach your hand out, it takes your hand. You reach another, try again, and it takes that hand too. You've got one left, and it has a sword, and you are no fool. This beast is far too covetous, far too gluttonous, and far too hungry to trust someone. You will not perpetuate this purple pain. You defeat it with a single slash and shove the beast off of the statues and off the platforms to plummet down to the ground. And there you see what it guarded. A crystal, thornless rose, beautiful and lovely, resting in the lap of the Queen Gethsemane statue. There is likely more to the story there, but for now, you bask in the glory of these 3 marvelous statues. Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Wow.
Oh, I think now is as good a time as any to show what Conlon was playing for this whole time. Chris, we could bring that up, please and thank you, my friend. It is the set, all 3 of our Court of the Dead statuettes that we've got right now. We've got Zyle. Is it Zyle, right?
It's Zyle.
Zyle, Kier, and Queen
Gethsemane.
Gethsemane.
That's a hard one.
Conlon, congratulations. This was one that you truly benefited from being at the tail end of the contestants here. Conlon, stick around after the show, and I'll tell you how to claim your prize. Andrew, wow. Wow.
There's a lot going on here. There is more to the story of that rose. And you can actually find it not only in our online comics, but also in the Grave Tales omnibus.
Yes. And again, everyone, head over to side.show/COTD day. I believe you still can register, and you can see everything that you need to know. We've got our daily schedule of everything that's up and coming here for the rest of the event. just so you're all aware, we've got an instant giveaway with Alex Ronowitz and Jasmine Edwards at 1. Andrew's going to be competing against Amy Chase in cobbled cosplay.
Wow.
That is at 2 p.m. At 3 o'clock, we've got 100% off promo code HUNT. Again, 3 p.m. These are on all of our channels. Wherever you're watching now, you can catch it there. And then at 5, exclusively in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, you can catch me and Amy and Autumn and a special guest wrapping up the entire event. And we will actually be streaming in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group and Rice Conquer Rule. So if you're watching either one of those channels, you can catch us there. That's 5. These are all at 5 Pacific time, or Sideshow Standard Time, as we like to say. Whew. Brad, look at all those coins you got next to you there.
I see all these skulls that Andrew has collected. Quite the collection.
Oh man, the secrets that are left uncovered are numerous.
I just straight up didn't know what was going on. And
But can we tell everyone about the name, or should we just leave that?
You know what, Andrew? Go ahead and let everyone in on the secret real fast before we wrap here.
So, as you know, this character, collects the souls of those that are lost. When you are destroyed, when your Etheria dissipates, this character tries to save what remnants of you that there are left, paying reverence to you by taking on the name of the last dead. But because it's a memory, it's backwards. So every name has been, starting with, we had Liage, which is Joel backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Anitzik, which is Christina backwards. Ichnet, Tenchi backwards. And then Numaid or whatever for Damon. And then Nirok for Karen.
Yes. So that was the name that you were calling out beforehand.
Yeah.
Or I believe that's question 6 or 7, right?
I don't know.
One of those. But Andrew, definitely, again, continuously raising the bar for Win, Lose, or Die, sir. Thank you so much. And Brad, thank you so much for being the avatar of death for a lot of these people.
I mean,
you did that.
I can be frightening, and I like to go there sometimes. That part of me, and I like to drop reward codes. So these are, I am multifaceted, and I'm glad to be here with you two gentlemen. This was a lot of fun. Andrew, you took me on a journey I didn't expect this Friday.
Yeah, it was an adventure for sure.
Oh, geez. Well, everyone, thank you all so much. Stick around. We've got more for Alive from the Underworld. There's some great videos, some stuff that you've never seen before. Again, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Court of the Dead day. We will see you pretty soon.
Hey, folks.
Bye, everyone.
So the Court of the Dead is definitely filled with some horrific characters indeed, right? Like this one here, Agravail the Executioner, certainly one of the scariest of the bunch. But strangely enough, the Executioner does not relish that job. In fact, what hides beneath the mask of the Executioner is actually a more sorrowful face of a more childlike entity that recognizes that there is a need for law and order in the Underworld, and he'll serve that at the bequest of the Alltaker, but does so begrudgingly. So a character that, like many in the court, is sort of torn by his nature as the Executioner versus what he, inside his own mind and within his own spirit, views as, is there not a greater purpose for me than to be this Executioner? We see that, the Executioner has come into contact with the Dreads grip, which is a malady that affects all of those in the Underworld, a sort of steady pull at one's psyche that tries to draw you towards the energy of destruction that the Underworld was created in. Yet all those that exist in the court and in the Underworld strive to rise above that to a more noble nature, to fight the celestial peril that's enslaving the entire universe. So with that in mind, though, the Executioner has been drafted into fighting that Dreads grip, and because of that, we've created this piece, which is a bit of a variant of a former piece that you may remember. So in this version of Agravail, we can also see that his portrait and his horns are very different. This is actually a lot more similar to a legendary scale bust that Amilcar Fong, one of the original designers of this character, had created and sculpted. So when we did this variant, we wanted to sort of reconcile the fact that we had advanced the design a little bit and changed that from what was originally there from when Matt Black sculpted this originally. So kind of a neat feature. You can see the skull is a little bit more of a small child, which kind of alludes to a little bit to the young soul or spirit that's within Agravail. So this then is the latest version of Agravail, the Dreadsbane Enforcer, who, once mask in place, is ready to go out and fight for the Underworld. See you next time when we rise, conquer, rule once again.
Do I look like a servant? And yet, here I am again, giving that which I hold most precious to those who value it no more than fire values the ashes it leaves behind. I am tasked by fate, delivering souls to heaven and hell in precisely equal portions. For eons I have served, never an offering missed, nor favoritism showed to either side. Yet, they are endlessly suspicious. They do not count my offerings so much as they weigh their own pride against the other's greed. I could set a watch to this silent dance of contempt if I cared about such a thing as time. Nevertheless, they dare not disturb this ancient ritual. Divided by their hate and blinded by their arrogance, they will come to learn both as their weakness. Hidden within the Underworld, my secret cadre of souls gives me hope. Each one unique and precious. They are my purpose and my strength. But strength in careless hands is a liability. My children yearn for freedom, to rise up and bring an end to this perverse game of ruination. But they must yet sleep. So my master's hatred stays focused on each other. Soon I shall awaken my children, and in their revelation, see my master's arrogance erased. I will show them how poorly their pride weighs against the spirit of creation, and for the first time, they will know terror. On that day, I will no longer be a servant, and the universe will finally gaze upon the true face of death.
Welcome, fellow mourners, to the library of the Court of the Dead. If it were up to me, I would take you straight to the Heist Athenaeum with Elianastis herself and go over every single manuscript that I possibly could in her library, but today, we're going to bring the library of the Court of the Dead to you, including 2 sneak previews for upcoming publications from the world of Court of the Dead. So stick around, but first let's begin where everyone should begin, the Chronicle of the Underworld. This beautiful hardcover book is your guide to all things afterlife, helping you navigate your way around Court of the Dead. In the Chronicle of the Underworld, you meet Death, who built and rules the Underworld, and you'll discover hidden truths about the forging of the universe and the secrets of heaven and hell. The realm of the dead is not only darkness and terror, the images in this lavish volume reveal beauties amongst horror, shown in the incredible artwork. This beautiful volume, so full of art and insight, is also enriched by the witty court jester Malavestros, who joins us for our journey through the pages, adding his own unique commentary and humor. You'll want to read it cover to cover, and then you'll want to keep it on the coffee table to open and peruse again and again. The Court of the Dead, the Chronicle of the Underworld, is an absolute must-have, both as a kind of beginner's guide to Court of the Dead and for the aficionado who wants to pore over every single detail. But if you want to go away from the encyclopedia, the compendium format, and you want to dive more into a story, then you can head on over with me to the graphic novel, Shadows of the Underworld. This graphic novel boasts an original cover scene by world-renowned artist Alex Horley. This is a hardcover book featuring 112 pages of action-packed story and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. It's a standalone tale which takes readers on a journey through the land of the dead, hunting down the mysterious Severed Shadow, a group of subversive underworld zealots. It features incredibly detailed, beautiful art by master illustrator Ivan Korotarev. Any fans of graphic novels, of art, or of horror would love this book, and of course, no Court of the Dead collection is complete without it. Speaking of graphic novels, that brings us to one of our sneak peeks today. Coming later this year is a new, original graphic novel from the Court of the Dead. The War of Flesh and Bone will be a hardcover volume written by Frank Thierry and Tom Gilliland, with stunning art once again by Ivan Korotarev. Here's a special reveal of a couple images from inside this beautiful work. The War of Flesh and Bone tells the tale of the conflict between the leaders of two factions, Gethsemane and Xyle, and how they pit their chief warriors against each other in a duel. Odium from the Flesh faction must take on Bone faction's Mordegold. But if the Underworld is to have any chance in the rebellion against heaven and hell, the factions need to find a way to end their struggles and work together, if they can. I'm extremely excited to get my hands on this new graphic novel. I can't wait for its release. Now, if you're looking for more story, or perhaps another introductory point into the world of the Court of the Dead, there is no better place than a Grave Tales omnibus, where we've got 9 different comics telling you the story of the Court of the Dead and its different characters. A unique page of art and a cheeky message from Malvestros introduces each new tale. 8 of the 9 stories have been released over Court of the Dead social media in recent years, but the comics have never been collected all together like this. And the 9th comic is brand new and exclusive to this omnibus. Also included are 6 pages of exclusive behind-the-scenes content, giving insight into the evolution of artwork, from sketches through colors to 3D character concept design. With a world-famous cast of artists and writers on board for these 9 comics, this is a collection you'll definitely want to own. Great stories all in one omnibus, and one great place to dive into the Court of the Dead. But there is one more story that we have to tell you about. Court of the Dead's first prose novel, The Rise of the Reaper General, written by Beatrice Van Slee, based on Tom Gilliland's world. It's an origin story for Demethiel, revealing his humble beginnings and his rise to power. This exciting novel features wonderful black and white illustrations by Rachel Rubicek. It also includes several incredible full-color pieces. Demethiel is an amazing character. Every Court of the Dead fan will want to find out more about his story. And you can look forward to diving into it in this 480-page tale when it's released later this year. Thank you all so much for watching and partaking in the stories of the Court of the Dead. Now get out there, mourners, and rise, conquer, and rule.
Greeting, mourners. I hope you're enjoying Court of the Dead Day. Thank you for joining us. Anna Van Slee and I will be your host. I'm delighted to be here with Tom Gilliland, and we are about to embark upon an odyssey into the dark and twisted mind of the creator of the Court of the Dead. For those of you who are not familiar with Tom, he's been leading creative here at Sideshow for more than 20 years. I would say you've probably shaped more X-Men than Professor X, recruited more Avengers than Nick Fury, faced down more Jedi than Darth Vader, and generally had a hand in pretty much any creative that's passed through Sideshow, an incredible amount of different characters and worlds that you've built. But what happens when a creative creates his own world? And that's what we're here to find out. We've got some questions from the Rise, Conquer, Rule Facebook group. So direct from you to Tom, let's delve into Court of the Dead. And let's start with where did Court of the Dead come from? How did you think up this insane and intricate world?
This is always the loaded question, right? So, I don't know. I think, there's your creative life, and you kind of did a wonderful job setting that up. Thank you. But I think that, the things that we're into, the things that we watch kind of create a tapestry, visual and storyline in our own heads. And so I think that tons of heavy metal and more than my share of Dungeons and Dragons probably contributed to where this ended up. But I think that, we do a lot of superhero stuff. The ones that I was always into were a little more darker. I liked, Dark Knight, Punisher, kind of the edgier stuff, or independent comics. So I think when I was thinking about what would a superhero team that I might come up with look like, that's where the Court of the Dead kind of started its gestation. So I think I was like, the anti-heroes always been more appealing, the misunderstood, good guys that are trying to do the right thing, but maybe aren't necessarily the best armed to do so. And just kind of the cool stuff that's always been kind of the thing that either creeped me out or intrigued me about haunted houses and sort of Knights of the Round Table and things like that. So I thought I'd like weave that all into a tapestry of what ultimately became Court of the Dead.
So you've talked a little bit about some of your professional influences, and you touched briefly on some of the personal and more formative, like D&D and heavy metal. Can you go into maybe a few more of, some of the books or magazines or movies or music that were really influential, that
Sure.
you might see some of the moralities or glimpses of that in some of the court characters?
Well, I think, music starting off, Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell was always a song that, I don't know, I would listen to stuff, and regardless of what the lyrics might be saying, I was kind of creating my own byline for it at the same time.
Do you play that when you're working on character
That's often
development?
in the playlist of like getting things together or whatnot, and I think
There is an official Court of the Dead playlist too, isn't there? If I
yeah,
recall.
I put that together.
I feel like I
Stolen
got that
from
early on.
innumerable film soundtracks or whatnot.
Got some Dead Can Dance, right?
Dead Can Dance,
too.
Graham Revell stuff from like The Crow. There's a lot of like interesting like world music from like a group called Voss. I don't know. I know stuff that's like atmospheric that has either some kind of dark pull at like things that sort of heroic themes or kind of
Haunting and instrumental.
tragedy and things like that or whatever else. So I think it's stuff like that. I mean, books, I think Lord of the Rings, for much of this, is kind of a pretty seminal take on like, what is a
Classic.
sweeping story that has such consequence for a world?
And a big cast of characters too, right?
Very much so. So that, yeah, it was rich in populace, right? Which is also something I've certainly been accused of with Court of the Dead, making far too many characters.
You put R.R. Martin to shame, I think, with the.
No, and that's one I caught on TV, but not so much in book form. But I don't know. It was stuff like that. I mean, westerns have always been my favorite films for the most part. So Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name and these sort of iconic anti-heroes that kind of do the right thing as it suits them or whatnot. Always had some weird appeal, and I think this sense of style and whatnot that kind of elevated the individual into something more mythic always appeals to me. Things like that.
And again, with those characters caught between good and evil, they're a little bit of both.
Yeah, I do love a great anti-hero. That sense that they know that they want to do something more important with their lives. They know they have a better purpose, perhaps, but they sort of entangled or in their own way in many ways. I think that feels to me is something I can relate to, as a person. The things that get my own way or whatever else, or the way I trip myself up.
And how do you approach the creative? So a lot of world building comes from writers, but you have a background in painting and, as you mentioned, like gaming. So I think you approach world building, and as a creative director here at Sideshow, obviously product development of high-end statuary and collectibles, but Court of the Dead is also in publishing. What are the mediums through which you've approached building Court of the Dead?
Well, I think one of the things that was most useful and informative about certainly my Sideshow experience and some of the stuff when I worked on other films or other things was the notion of character archetypes and kind of the Joseph Campbell kind of hero's journey ethics or whatnot. So how each character kind of represents a certain thing or a fixture in the story.
And also very common in RPG gaming,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
You get your
So yeah,
warrior
you're actually
and your
I'm a
mage.
paladin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I was just naturally tuned to that notion of stories that are then told through the litmus of, well, you've got a rogue that is a ne'er-do-well that never did well and wants to, and then you've got a paladin that's putting pressure on that, and another character, and so you start to see these interactions between characters, and when they're really fractured or whatnot, I think that's what makes for good drama, certainly in a lot of the great content that we see, especially in these days, because the sort of the patness of people that are just inherently good and never ever to be challenged, I just find so boring and so unrealistic. And now we get to see characters that are flawed, that are more realistic, more relatable, feel like something we might do, that we could be just as capable as the heroism or that they achieve as much as the villainy that they unwittingly maybe or maybe wittingly create. So I think it was the aspect of in kind of recreating characters like Superman and Batman that had such iconic sort of archetype-like statements to them that kind of creates a language that's both visual and sort of storytelling that I think informs you. So there's elements of the character's persona that come through. I mean, obviously Batman's dark, brooding, Sentinel of Gotham element really kind of fuels that dark anti-hero, kind of Dark Knight aspect of things. And I think Dark Knight by Frank Miller was kind of an entry point for me in comics. I didn't read them that much when I was younger, but I think that came out when I was about 17 or 18. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know comics could be this hard edge. This is awesome.
That's a great story.
And so then I was just, flipping through the bins looking for anything that was kind of darker or creepier or whatnot.
So a lot of those iconic characters are, telling stories about the time that they were created in, and they reinvent themselves along the way. So Superman is the story of, immigrating to a new country, and, Batman with his vigilante background and then is reinvented by new creators. Would you say that Court of the Dead, in the time and place that you created it, says something about
What the hell was going on in my head?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe. I think there is an aspect that, when you're working on so much creative, there is an aspect of when do you get sort of a chance to step out on the stage and out and around the things that you are replicating. I mean, I think we've done a pretty well chronicled job of curating the sort of pop culture icons of whatnot, and I think that aspect of getting an opportunity after, I don't know what it is, 22 years or something at this point.
I'll let you say that number.
I'm gonna just load the bricks on my own coffin here. But I think there was an aspect that was like, hey, creatively I was at a point where I felt like some things I was looping on, and I kind of, made some appointments within the studio to kind of take care of and guide the ship further through the licensing elements we were working on, and kind of get back to something that my partner Greg and I talked about at maybe our first sitting, which was, I'm not just interested in coming in to do this to copy other people's work. I definitely want to bring something to the table. And I think in the course of finding Sideshow's way, I got a little lost in finding my own way in that approach. And finally, at one point, pre-Comic-Con, I guess maybe, was it 5 or 6 years ago? I don't quite remember. It was like, hey, the time is now. And, I just stepped back, drafted all the things I need to do, collaborated with a number of people in the studio in and out, and just went for it. And I think that was incredibly rewarding in parallel to all the things that we have achieved, through all of the, getting this blessed opportunity to be able to represent and curate this pop culture, pantheon of our today culture or whatnot, and add something to that. I mean, it's awesome to be able to add things to the licensing landscape, like say Star Wars mythos types things that we do, where we do get a little chance to kind of tell a little bit of our own creative, twist on stuff. But
so what are some of those themes that you're bringing that are new, that you feel like were things that were resonating with you that you wanted to take to the next level?
Well, I think there was aspects of things that I saw in the world, certainly at that time, was the notion of miscast individuals, and the way that to a degree society was kind of enforcing or inflicting certain perspectives. I don't know, they could be anything. And there was this notion of self-empowerment that I saw, and I could see it rising in a lot of things. I could see it rising in myself. Just the notion of sitting down and kind of crafting the elements of Court of the Dead, and really kind of taking it out of just this entangled tumbleweed of mixed thoughts, and really start linearly laying it out. I could see elements of the don't judge the book by its cover, and delving deeper into the anti-hero kind of aspect, where we have a reflex prejudice to certain things. Certainly things that look dead and creepy must be bad. And I was like, well, what if that was kind of the twist, where the world was, those were the ones that were trying to make things right.
So these are really your heroes.
100%, yes, these are my heroes.
At a glance, if you didn't know anything, you might look at these and think, this is a horror story, right? And this is like a panoply of fairly horrific looking characters.
Well, yeah, and I looked at it as an aspect of, I thought, in a universe that is sort of out of balance, where the powers that were supposed to be the shepherding element for those that needed the shepherding weren't receiving that. They were instead being oppressed in the form of the celestial element of the story, and the opposite, the individual that's often cited as being the end, in death, or in this case the all-taker, always viewed as that's a bad thing, even though fundamentally he's kind of escorting you through the veil to what lies beyond, right? So, but I realized that hey, this is a character, and it was maybe a little bit of a dare and interest to say, can I actually make this the hero? And can I weave my story around the sort of imperfectness of these characters that understand that their nature is destruction, but their nurture that they're striving for is this honorable intention to kind of reset the balance in the universe and make what's right for not just them, but the mortal realm in the story as well, which is kind of where the real peril lies between that and the celestial kind of warfare that is grinding up the universe.
So a little redemption in there.
Yeah,
too.
and I like that element too. I think in the anti-hero ethic, redemption is a huge sort of a trope. The aspect of they're either struggling for it, they inadvertently find it, it's the thing that's escaped them, or it's been right in front of them the whole time. I kind of find that fascinating in the sense that, there is a sense of forgiveness in that, and I think that that's, kind of something that I think I personally believe pretty strongly, and I think we're all fallible. We all do things that we kind of regret.
You're making up
but
for all
that
the
sense that
bodies
we
you've
get to-
buried with Court of the Dead, Tom.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm guilty of at this point. But I think then the visual aesthetic of addressing Court was the aspect of trying to then balance the beatific with the horrific, in that sense that, well, you can see it as horrific, or you can see the beatific in this incarnation. I think a character like Elian Astis
Yeah,
is
she's
a
a
sort
great
of
example, isn't she?
disembodied floating head kind of Elizabethan ghost, which kind of echoes back to when I went to England as a boy when I was 13. It was just nothing but ghost stories everywhere we went, and they were always this green lady that would float through the manor or whatnot. And I don't know, I think that's what stuck with me in that. So I think you asked earlier about the notion of where are these things pulled from? There's all these just threads that go back to experiences, little snippets of story or mythology that you've read. And I think that those are things that I was pulling at. But one thing I did want to do with Court while I was striving for these themes of sort of self-determination and redemption and whatnot was I wanted to create something that was, it wasn't unique was my strive. It was just the notion that it was like original. I'd kind of created all the fixtures of it. I did borrow the idea of death and things and use some tropes as a means to, I think, flip a switch with people with something that sounded familiar, but then was getting characterized entirely differently. And I think that, I know with the exception of maybe Charon the Boatman, that might be the one name or fixture from the Underworld that I've borrowed from, legitimate mythology, and everything else was really kind of done like a D&D campaign. I'm gonna create it top to bottom. I'm gonna come up with names no one can pronounce. And I'm gonna do this my way, every way I want to. And fortunately, I think it's struck a cool chord with folks who also kind of like to dwell a little bit in the darker themes of things, and
Most definitely.
and a little bit of the spook and a little bit of the sort of whimsy of kind of things like the Haunted Mansion and stuff like that. So. And Halloween, obviously a big influence too. I just always loved that as a kid, dressing up. My mom.
What was your favorite Halloween costume? We have to give a shout out, yeah.
My mom would always dress up with us. So there's great pictures of her dressed up as a vampire or whatnot, and us as little vampire kids, and
Awesome.
there's all these great things. She had a hand in all of that. It was just wrapped up in it and whatnot. And I think that kind of sense of impropriety or whatnot from someone that was both June Cleaver and probably the most worldly person I've ever known, and this kind of mix of a wonderful parent that really steered me well. And I think she introduced me often to literature and things like that. So I think she was also another fixture that kind of sort of shepherded me towards things. And never, even when Dungeons and Dragons was being outlawed at my school, she still backed me up and was like, all right, well, just play at home and don't bring it up at school.
Oh, that's
I was
awesome.
like, man,
Way to go,
Mom. You
Mom.
just totally, wait, I'm not in trouble? This is the best. Anyway.
Do you think she gave you permission to, you have to be bold and brave and make yourself vulnerable to create something and put a story out there. Do you think that some of those early experiences with her really give you permission to go do that?
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it. I would probably imagine so. I think there was an aspect of role-playing and dressing up and whatever else. And we had like a hat box, and it was filled with every imaginable hat you can imagine, and all kinds of costume
Is this from your hat box?
bins. And
It's a
what's
lovely
that?
hat.
Yeah, this is one from when I was a kid. It stuck with me. Now, So I think it was that aspect, like on any given day, we were cowboys, knights, soldiers, whatever we were. And we were up and down the neighborhood running around playing this. And the fact that she was involved and would give me different things that she found in antique stores and stuff, knowing that this is what would tickle me or whatnot was, always appreciated. And I think, yeah, that definitely kind of steered me into that direction of being kind of a more, visual projectionist or whatnot. Like, okay, I'm gonna share my stories and everything else.
I know, we'll have to put them on social media, but we have some lovely post studies of Tom on
those are great.
A turntable doing the famous
all of you
death
folks
point.
about this, man.
Well, but what better reference, right, than acting out what you want your character to do?
Well, I think I guess that's the aspect that I enjoy about the process is really not just directing it with kind of a pointed finger, but getting involved, being able to paint some of the pieces and work with the different incredibly capable and talented artists that are on the Sideshow team, whether they're sculptors, they're illustrators, they're designers, a lot of the writers that I've worked with, and it's been something in that regard too. We talked about like how you want to go out and sort of take care of this sort of desire that you have in yourself to share the story. And I think the key word for me was share, was not just to tell you all a story I did, was to kind of extend the kind of collaborative spirit that I've always kind of run the studio with, was that I'd like to do this with others and, create a sort of a Genesis toy box or sandbox that, I could connect with people that had a like mind. Amilcar Fong, Rachel Rubicek, these are like, conceptual designers that, were instrumental in helping to shape the look of characters because my illustration skills are abysmal. There's some art we should share. Writers like Jacob Murray, B. Van Slee, Landry Walker, Corinna Bechko. I'm sorry, I don't want to forget anybody in this mix, but
it's dangerous to start down the road
I know,
because
right?
there are
so now I've got to reel them all out.
And everyone that you've not named, right?
And there's everybody that's on the staff has contributed with either sculpture or additional paint talent, and I think through that you create an orchestra that creates a bigger piece of music, and I think that was something I always appreciated. It's I don't know. I mean, it's certainly a challenge to create something and to do it on your own. I think there's some incredible magic when you talk about self-determination and everything else, and that's sort of the theme of Court of the Dead, to not then collaborate with others to give a greater, pass, what is the phrase, pay it forward to other creatives and go like, hey, do you want a chance to kind of play in this sandbox too? And I really enjoyed that part of the Court of the Dead, Genesis through now, so.
All right, Tom. Inquiring minds, the mourners want to know. We've got some specific questions from the Rise, Conquer, Rule Facebook group for you, starting with the lovely Miss Shard. So Miss Shard, who you can see here over my right shoulder, is a fan favorite character, and the fans would like to know, are we going to get to know more of her and her story?
Oh, right on. Okay. Well, great to hear from the Rise, Conquer, Rule group. I lurk on there all the time. Love the enthusiasm that folks express there and all the sort of questions and theories that are sprinkled throughout. But with regards to Shard, yes, that is kind of the capital story. And maybe why it's dragged on to be the last thing that I actually addressed, was to give myself the biggest and longest runway to kind of get this thing right. So in fact, as we speak, B. Van Slee, who I've collaborated with on the Rise of the Reaper General Demothile novel.
And these are prose novels, not
these are prose
novels.
So this will be, really the big picture story or whatnot. So I felt like, we talked earlier a lot about novels and things like that. It inspired me, and I thought, I really feel like to tell the story right, I should do it this way, and then let what happens beyond that do its thing. So with Reaper General story, which is kind of the prequel of the Underworld's kind of rise to ability.
The Hobbit, if you will.
Yeah, a little bit.
The Lord of the Rings trilogy.
The Rise, Conquer, World trilogy then is sort of the Shard narrative that sort of introduces her to the Underworld and the greater predicament that the universe she had no clue was in such peril is actually in, and what role she has in correcting that. So we're grinding that out now. I don't know, it's always tough because the next question is, so when is that out?
Which is in fact a question. When can we expect the next court novel?
Well, there's always elements of producing and whatever else that I grossly underestimate or whatnot, and the writing process itself can take some time when you're trying to be so thoughtful. But with Rise, Conquer, Roll, we're trying to write them all kind of in a sort of concurrent manner so that the echoes of one really succinctly line up with the others.
So Rise, Conquer, and Rule novel trilogy that will tell Shard's story is currently in production.
That's probably the shorter answer.
Very exciting. But you're conceiving them all at once, right? So it's sort of like a story in 3 parts.
Well, the story, yeah. I mean, we always had a general, mapping of how and what needed to take place, and so now it was sort of how to parse it into, 3 distinct books or whatnot, so that we could kind of, get to those.
As an avid
nice
reader,
high points, so.
that makes me so happy because there's so many authors out there that have started and not finished book series, especially, gosh, poor fantasy fans. We just get the worst.
Yeah, that is definitely on the charts all over the place, isn't it? So I think that was part of the.
Appreciate your completism.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we're in for a penny and for a pound here, so we're going all the way.
And they'll probably be illustrated, right?
They will probably have some illustrations sprinkled throughout, but otherwise they'll be, maybe not quite as luxuriously illustrated as the Demothal novel was, but enough.
Which is due out this year.
Yes, it is.
This summer, coming summer 2021.
A 440-something page.
It is a murder weapon.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's like we wrote an encyclopedia.
But that one is fully illustrated, right? We've got a whole series of Topi-inspired illustrations by Rachel Rubicek and some lovely color plates from Mr. Fabian Schlager.
That is correct. And
a cover
by Vincent Preuss, which is
beautiful.
really, really awesome.
The original hangs in your office?
It does, in fact. And a cool piece that, we met at Comic-Con. We struck a chord, and this piece kind of came of that interaction. So it was a lot of fun to work with him.
It's a wonderful painting. Very excited.
So.
Okay, so the next question, the fans would like to know about the Blood faction.
Of course.
And if Ravels and his rabble will ever be. Don't. No. No.
You opened the casket here, man.
So. Here we go.
Well, so yes, the Blood faction is something that, and the fourth heresy of a faction in the Underworld has always been alluded to. It is kind of a salacious element in the history of the Underworld. It is something that I definitely want to do something interesting with. It's also something that, in a matter of speaking, is kind of present in a lot of the storytelling already through what the Dread script is, which is that sort of malady that the destructive nature of the Underworld.
The Sanguine Heresy
kind of affects this and bleeds it out. And the Blood faction kind of was born a little bit out of this, with the Dread script's influence or whatnot.
But they're still around, right?
Well, I think there's, the shadows of things never go away in the Underworld. So it's always down some dark alley, or the back of somebody's mind. And it tends to be a mechanism that I think comes to the fore when you see certain characters that have fallen from grace so far that they're now essentially a tool of the Dread script. So like in Shadows of the Underworld, the Geddes Avancore character, good example. But it is something that I've been looking at in a couple other ways to do in a much more overt way, and I think that's where it's really being asked. Hey, when can we really see what the Sanguine Heresy was about? How did it infect? It's actually the best use of the word.
Yeah.
How did it infect the history of the Underworld, and how does it echo into the future? And I think those are things that I'm looking for. We're having some tremendous development stuff with games and whatnot, not to rally the topic everywhere, but so maybe that might be an avenue in which I get a chance to exploit that a little bit more fully and more overtly.
That would be fun.
I think people will dig it. So
okay, but talking about product formats, this is actually another question we had. It's a good segue to switch over. Folks are very excited about 3.0 and their 6-scale program, and we made some recent announcements that we're collaborating with them. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
That is exciting news for everybody, actually, myself included. Well, as everyone knows, it's been a little bit of a challenging year to make stuff. So,
I wonder why.
So things have run their course a little longer than maybe we expected, but you know, that stuff's still in the works, and will be, you know, a lovely complement to what is already offered for Court of the Dead. But so it's Demethyl and Malavestros, two characters that probably couldn't be less alike if they tried. So one a regal, sort of conflicted Arthurian knight, and the other a, you know, sort of humility mouthpiece for the All-Taker. But really, really well and wonderfully executed by the team at 3.0. That is just, you know, an absolute, you know, group of masters at what they do. I've always really appreciated the, you know, exciting energy and, you know, whether they're working in a very, you know, realistic palette or a very character styled one, they just kill it every time they, you know, get up to bat. And this was a fantastic way for us to collaborate with another company in this case to create pieces for this. And you know, we've done some great stuff in that regard with a few others as well. But you know, this is one of the ones that's kind of coming up next. So you know,
so
excited to see that,
that
like play its way out to folks' collection. So,
well, let's marry our conversation about product formats with some of your early influences on gaming. There's some very exciting developments in the gaming world with Court of the Dead. Let's start talking about miniatures, which is interesting for Sideshow, right? Being a collectible and statuary company kind of marries some of your childhood passions with your current professional trajectory. We've already released 2 Court of the Dead miniatures. Are there more on the docket? Also, a fan specifically asked if we'd see any Red Guard characters. So clearly a Flesh Faction infiltrator.
Yeah, I can see that influence at work.
Hoping to get some
It's either that or a plant for Queen Gethsemane.
Zombie knights.
Yeah, so yeah, miniatures, kind of a big thing in my hobby world. In fact, that's how I painted miniatures to pay for my school books when I went to university. So.
And I think we showed off some of your painted miniatures.
We did when we were doing the Mourner's Call stuff.
Miss Amy Chase had some to show off.
So, you know, in I think realizing a little bit more of that, and you know, I do a ton of miniature wargaming and stuff like that. So I was like, well, I've got to do, you know, fulfill a little bit more of my my interest here.
So who might we see next?
The next characters we'll see are, I'm trying to figure out which order we did this. If I'm not mistaken.
We did All-Taker, Agravail, and
Shard.
Shard to start.
So that then would leave...
For the record, we hand-packed those.
Yeah. This is how life goes
like,
now. You forget things you did 20 minutes ago.
Post-COVID world, that meant like...
well, I know that there's a certain fool that definitely was handled for the miniature line.
Really? Mr. Vestros?
Yes.
Okay.
And for the life of me, I can't remember the 5th one. So that'll be a surprise.
Are you
for
intentionally
folks.
forgetting?
Yeah, I'll go with intentionally.
Are there any others on your
So
wish list that we might see?
Well, I'd like to kind of flesh out the court a little bit more. Wow.
I do love a bad pun.
I get a
but, you know.
I should get more points for that.
You can't give Flesh Faction favoritism.
No?
Though.
Okay.
You've gotta, if you're gonna do, you know,
Agravail. You have to spread it all around.
You've got to do, yes.
Well, then we'd have to do Alienestus too, wouldn't we? Well, I think the thing was, you know, I was looking for some really sharp miniature work. You know, Boris, who just killed the sculptures on these things, did a couple more for us.
Very talented
These
sculptor,
are
right?
amazing,
Yeah.
yes.
And they were produced right here in the US.
Yeah, we did it in the US with
Very cool.
you know, so cast them in, you know, classic white metal. You know, very much like you know, every gaming miniature I've ever dealt with.
Still very paintable, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm trying slowly to grind my way through painting the set, but I'm succeeding less than I wish I was. But where that does lead us, though, to some of that question is, will there be more miniatures? And the answer is yes, through the collectible ones that we're doing, which are kind of at a size that is maybe a little bit too big for some gaming aspects, but great for others. If you're not really hung up on scale and you like maybe your heroes to really stand up against what may be in the background.
Can you put them in your Kingdom Death game? Can you play them with
sure.
you?
My old taker could go in there and clean up in that place. But we are working right now with Skybound. And so there are some new games that are being worked on that are going to include miniatures. So I think folks have seen that we did Dark Harvest, which is more of a
super fun backstabbing party game.
With some incredible art by Abigail Larson. Just really, I really love that part of it. Especially the gameplay is awesome too. But Abigail has a style that is just its own unique take, and it's got a wonderful sense of like dark whimsy. And I was like, this is kind of the perfect fit when I was talking about aspects of the horrific and beatific balancing themselves out in court. She really nailed it in that regard, and I think it gives a wonderful face to that game. But of deeper concerns and much more work is a game we're working on called the Dreadsbane Order, which is a tabletop RPG. It certainly will have a staggering number of miniatures from what I can see at this juncture.
Excellent.
Right now we're really working on the story elements to guide the RPG scenarios or whatnot through a pretty arcing story. The story takes place right after the Shadows in the Underworld graphic novel, but before the arrival of Shard. So it's a little late in the era of the Underworld, and it really takes, it sort of circles around the fact that the Dread's grip has now gone from being a sort of existential threat that was always out in the darker, nooks and crannies of the Underworld, and instead has become something that is starting to actually take over individuals in the Underworld and steal their agency, again hitting at that self-determination ethic, and steal that from them.
And what is the Dreadsbane Order for those who might
So the
not know?
Dreadsbane Order is a knighthood like the Mortis Knights, which is what Demethal leads. It's led by a character named Kalakil, who is kind of a conflicted spirit knight and former Mortis knight who, as it turns out, had a resistance to the Dread's grip that hadn't been seen anywhere else in the Underworld. And because of that, she was able to shield other agents, and they built an order around her to go out and actually directly, in a sort of Inquisition kind of a way, root out the Dread's grip as it was seeping into the capital city of Ilverness.
And give us an image here. She's kind of awesome
So she's like a haunted suit of armor.
So cool.
It's not just the armor. I mean, there is definitely a ghostly visage of this female knight and whatnot. She's got, she's got quite a broadsword, and she uses a lot of sort of chain and hook items to kind of lash things down and whatnot.
Total badass.
I think in gaming parlance, she's kind of like the tank in the Dreadsbane Order.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of the other characters fill out the DPS and sort of support healer roles. But there's a whole cast of, I believe, 9 player characters that you can choose from that are all sort of quirkier members of the Dreadsbane Order. So they've realized that the way they've been fighting the Dread's grip, it has already adapted to that. So they had to kind of bring in kind of the misfit crew to kind of trick the Dreadsbane Order.
The Suicide Squad, if you will.
It's a little bit like that. So they're a little bit more, the characters have got a lot of flavor. And who's backing Kalakil up in this adventure to figure out,
maybe more
who's
like
behind.
Space Marines, right?
No, maybe less of those, but so it's really how the Order is addressing this like big threat that again is taking over elements of the Underworld, and not just elements but the people. And this is the one thing the All-Taker and the scions of the court, Gethsemane, Alienastus, and Zyle realize, well, while we're working on this big plan to right the celestial problem, we can't have the bottom drop out from us, or this is going to sink the entire ship. So Kalakil and Alienastus, who's supporting her, and a number of other interesting new characters are really the crux of the story of fixing this problem while the other problem gets dealt with. So it'll be a great game. It's got some really interesting mechanics for a tabletop RPG. A lot of neat timer elements and things that I've never seen in the game.
So fans want to know when, of course.
So that a little incumbent on us being able to get everybody and all the teams back to full capacity and work. Fortunately for the writing part, we've been able to grind a great deal of that out, and a lot of the game mechanic stuff has been able to be worked in the lab over at Skybound. So I think I don't know. Help me out. Are we closer to?
Actually, it's probably early 22, I think, is what we're looking at currently.
That's what I wanted to say, so I was right on. Yeah. But really a tremendous game. I really love the story. I think this is going to be something fun. There's a lot of twists and turns in it and some quirky surprises and whatnot. And I think it's going to be a fun, replayable campaign-style game that I think is definitely going to leave people with an impression.
Oh, yeah. I love RPGs. They're just a great way to immerse yourself into a world in an interactive way, and really get in there. And thank you, Tom, for joining us for this interview, and thank you, mourners, for staying with us. It's been a pleasure to journey through the dark and twisted mind of Tom Gilliland. Happy Court of the Dead Day, and good morning to you all.
Alas, my poor naive mortal, you've been dealt a terrible lie. You dwell in myths of heaven as a place of hope and salvation, and hell as one of punishment for those not worthy of pearly gates. In truth, they are two sides of one vile, corrupt coin, as neither care for salvation nor damnation. Their reality is a place of cruel imbalance, where your mortal souls serve only to further fuel a war of supremacy that is never ending. Horrifying, no? Yet in the shadows lie another path, with one who deals in the cold currency of truth. He is death, the all-taker. His offer is simple. Look past your mortal fears and embrace his promise to restore balance to life and the hereafter. Accept sanctuary amongst the mourners of the Underworld and fight with us. Our celestial masters must be made to see their folly, to restore what is just. We will rise, conquer, and rule.
His human name now forgotten, the merchant lord lays on cold stone. Split from chest to groin, he clutches his own innards. As he is approached by strange and horrific beings, he wonders whether he is in heaven, or perhaps more likely, in hell. But the realm he has entered, the Court of the Dead, is neither heaven nor hell. It is the realm of death himself. It is death who stands before him, and it is death who utters one word. What little memory remains of his former life, the hoarding, the greed, the suffering he imposed on the townsfolk, both in coin and in flesh, and then, more clearly, of his death. Those same townsfolk swarming him, his public execution, it all comes swirling back into his mind. Another figure steps forward, smiling, and the true horrors begin. Gethsemane, the queen of the dead, creator and overseer of all death's abominations, eagerly goes to work. She twists not only his flesh, but his wretched and malleable soul. The task complete, she stands above him, and with a simple smirk bids him rise. Satisfied, a Varkas is born. floating between worlds of the living and the dead, Avarkus will be known as the Red Death, a sick, hungry being craving the greed so prevalent in men. A village suffers, held in hunger and despair by a brutal and greedy lord. The Red Death descends, expelling a red mist from a hideous appendage in his abdomen. Avarkus brings the worldly suffering of the villagers to an early end. Their souls, however, are liberated, transformed into wraiths, vengeful, bloodthirsty. Under the command of the Red Death, the angry mob besieges the Lord, tearing him limb from limb, preparing his soul to be consumed by Avarkus, the devourer of greed. But one soul will not satiate the Red Death, condemned to wander forever among the living, always hungering for the avarice of mankind.
Well, folks, our mortal coil calls us back to our own world once again, so that's going to be the end of the show and Court of the Dead Day. Thank you for coming along with us on this journey as we kicked our way into the Underworld, dusted off the bones and bric-a-brac, and shared a number of insights and secrets that we could from Court of the Dead, and any other interesting stories we had coming for you for the year to come. We'll see you next time when we rise, conquer, rule once again. Hey, folks, so the